Hello there, Ben from Vibe here once again. Oh, we're in a different location. Luckily, we've been granted access to the lovely cinema at Printworks, View in particular. We're all very grateful to be here instead of my really cramped living room space. This is quite an upgrade, and once again, thanks to View and Printworks for allowing us access to this beautiful bar room and also the VIP section. That was very cushy, I have to say, while watching the film. It was. We just got out literally from across the corridor, just walked out of Black Widow, the new Marvel film. Personally, I wasn't really that excited going into it because, as you know, I don't know if it's a spoiler at this point, but in the last Avengers film, Black Widow dies. So it's like the highest grossing film ever made. Literally everyone's seen that film more than any other film.
I have seen that film and I didn't know that, so...
What? Oh, right, okay. So going into it, I thought, well, we're seeing a film about a character who died already in the franchise, so why are we going back? But I have to say, I was somewhat pleasantly surprised by it. I don't know if you want to give a quick rundown, where this...
So it's kind of a prequel. It's a weird one. It's a prequel sequel kind of thing because it's in the middle. It's just after Civil War. So the Avengers have just broken up because they had the big argument about their unregulated kind of super people just running around the planet doing things, and then obviously a lot of countries get pissed off and they're like, well, you should be regulated, you should be told where to go and told what to do, and obviously Captain America's like, no, and Iron Man's like, yes, and then they fall apart, and then everyone who didn't sign the Accords essentially becomes a war criminal. So early on in the film, there's that government agent guy who goes like, we've got them and we've got him and he's in prison now as well, and so that kind of gives you an idea of where everyone is. And then obviously it goes into her storyline of how she gets wrapped up in everything, which I'm sure we'll go into.
Someone who's not as familiar with Marvel films, did you have understanding of what was going on at the beginning?
Yes. No, but yes. Okay. So I did, yes. Okay. I think the film did a very good job of kind of not necessarily filling the gaps, but giving you enough that you could enjoy the film without fully understanding all of the context. I think I've only seen like 3 or 4 Marvel films.
Oh, wow.
Something like that. So it was all very new to me, but I enjoyed it. I was like, I didn't really have high expectations. I didn't have any expectations, and I thought it was really fun.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Gina, if you want to give quick thoughts, like, are you a big Marvel fan at all?
Yeah, I mean, I've watched pretty much, I think, everything apart from the Loki stuff.
Oh, wow, everything. Well, you're full in.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah, we've probably... Lockdown was a long time. We had a lot to do. But yeah, so we watched like all of them during lockdown. And then we've watched 2 of the TV shows. We wait until they come out and then we watch more. So Loki ends next week, so we're going to smash it all next week and watch it all in one.
And do you think this kind of added to the lore? Because I think one of the strongest things about it, that it was somewhat standalone-ish. Like a lot of his Marvel films, because there's literally been dozens released since 2008, since the first Iron Man, this Marvel Universe thing. I often question people going into films that aren't like as well read as you guys, as big Marvel fans, that they walk into, say, I don't know, Guardians of the Galaxy 2 or the latest Avengers film, and if they didn't see anything before that, if they would be completely lost or the impact would be taken away. Whereas this film, I don't think you needed that much context. I think it kind of stood alone as almost kind of a family drama. I don't know if you got kind of Incredibles vibes from it.
Really? Bit, yeah. I didn't, but now that you said that, that's quite interesting.
It's kind of a darker version of it. A bit of a, because obviously with all the spies and the kind of being broken apart and brought back together, and the fact that they're kind of not actually a real family, which obviously established in the first like few minutes of the film. But I think it does a good job because obviously it's not like an origin story film. It's not like Doctor Strange where it's just like, well, none of the Avengers really matter. We're talking about this one guy and his journey to becoming a superhero or whatever. It doesn't really tie into anything, whereas this had to be tied in. So they had to kind of quickly explain why she's on the lam, why there's no other Avengers about to help her, because obviously in like Winter Soldier, she comes and helps Captain America, and she's got a tight friendship with Hawkeye and stuff. So it's like, well, where's he? Why isn't he helping out? And all this kind of stuff. So they have to kind of mention that. But I feel like you say, I feel like they do a good job of it. They mention the Sokovia Accords and they go into the spy story, and then you go on from there. And it's kind of all this big clandestine operations and stuff. So it's like they wouldn't know about it. It's kind of the idea, which I think feel is how they get away with it being a contained story. It's like, 'cause obviously no one knows about any of this.
Yeah, almost felt kind of Bondy at points, especially. And I think the director knew that, because you literally have a scene early in the film where Scarlett Johansson is watching Moonraker, and not to spoil anything, but especially with the ending, it's kind of like, this is almost kind of like a kind of a 70s over-the-top Bond film in a way. But I will say the first half I did enjoy more than the second half. I don't know if you guys felt that, or were you kind of just...
I feel like it gets more superhero-y in the second half. I think the first half is kind of like secret spy. You think I'm over there, but I'm over here, and it's like, who's this person, who's that person, and then towards the end, it's like, well, here's the supervillain, and we've got to go to is like, yeah.
One of the things I liked, especially in that first half, is we've had these films where it's like massive wars in space and planets blowing up and big buildings falling over. But the first half, especially in the action sequences, were kind of like small-scale, hand-to-hand fight scenes done quite well. I was like, oh, this is refreshing, despite, what came all before.
I was going to say, I think that was something I really liked about it, is that I think there was consistent action throughout the whole thing, but it got progressively more intense and bigger and more explosive and all that. But it was done in such a way that it kind of matched where the film was at. It kind of didn't jump between being very serious kind of scenes that we know where it's two people talking and then suddenly there's just high impact action. It was pretty well paced in that regard, I think.
Yeah, I think the cast, especially, I was really impressed by Florence Pew, who's the sister of Scarlett Johansson. I think this will probably be kind of a star-making performance by her. I think she's going to be in just everything after this, because...
I mean, she's already kind of there, I think. I agree, she was brilliant.
What's she in? I've not noticed her in anything.
What's she not in?
Everything. So Hannah,
Yeah, everything.
She was in Midsummer.
She was in Midsummer. She was in
go on, Hannah.
Lady
She's
Macbeth. She was in Little Women, and that is all I can remember. But yeah.
To be fair, at the start I did get confused. I thought for a second, the first time I saw her, I thought she was the girl from Heroes, the cheerleader in Heroes. I can't remember her name. I thought it was her for a second. And I was like, I had a moment where I was like, it's not her. It is her? It's not? No, it isn't her. Okay, it isn't her. It's this new. But I thought she was really good. I haven't seen anything else that she's been in. I thought she was quite good. I thought she was quite convincing, and
good performance.
She played well against Scarlett Johansson as like the other kind of super spy woman.
Definitely. I think especially because Scarlett Johansson has been Black Widow for such a long time, and then you get this new character who's her sister, who has to be, I don't know,
like at least as good.
Yeah, someone who has the same kind of presence, I guess, and the same kind of skill. And I think they had really good chemistry as siblings. Yeah. I was going to say, first watching it, I thought they were really well cast because they looked like sisters, but then it turns out that Natasha is Scarlett Johansson's character is actually adopted.
I had the exact same thought as well. It's the bit where they're in the apartment and they're eye to eye.
It's so ironic because there's other films where you get siblings who look nothing alike and they're meant to be blood relatives. So, oh well.
Yeah, and the little kind of scrap in the flat.
Little scrap.
Yeah, well, fight to the death, I should say.
Fight in the flat that they had,
Yeah, I thought that was quite good, and I always call him the Stranger Things guy, but obviously he's got a name.
David Harbour.
David Harbour, yeah.
He was really good.
Got all the stuff for him and got the plane and stuff. Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, it was nice to see him not be in Stranger Things.
Yeah.
I've never seen him in anything else, I don't think.
No, I don't think so. But yeah, I think he was kind of like the lighter kind of comedic character, but I kind of liked one of the stronger things about it, especially just in the halfway point, just before I started to lose interest, was kind of the family dynamics where they're all kind of sat at the table and they all kind of dish it out. You don't usually have a lot of that in Marvel films where you have like somewhat thorough character development, make you kind of care, make you understand the dynamics of the family especially, and I thought they played off each other very well. But before we get into spoilers, it's mainly when it becomes, your usual Marvel fare superhero flick with a really underwhelming villain, which was just like...
Yeah.
I'll get into that in the spoiler section, but...
Played by Ray Winston.
Yeah, Ray Winston.
He was fighting that Cockney accent, wasn't he? It was, yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah, he was meant to be a Russian character, but it was just a slightly more sinister Cockney accent.
I feel like it was exactly the same as The Boys. Like with the first scene, it's just like, well, he's definitely not where you're telling me he's from. But as it went on, it's like the accent got stronger, and it was like, okay, I'm believing this more. But the very first scene where he meets Scarlett Johansson, or whatever, is just like you're just a Cockney man.
Because obviously it's meant to be like this Russian embassy thing, but then Ray Winston just walks out with his Cockney accent. It's just like,
That's the thing I didn't recognise.
I
didn't recognise it was Ray Winston. Then he started talking, and I was like, oh yeah. Yep.
Ray fucking Winston. I'm a Russian, don't you know? That was more Australian.
That was a little more Australian, yeah.
But yeah, just in the more kind of third act, generic kind of flair where I cared mildly because I like these characters, but I never felt they were threatened. And it's the curse of kind of a film that takes place before the events of films we've already seen, where the main character we know is going to survive this. And I know you subconsciously know most superheroes are going to survive the superhero film, but at least you can suspend your disbelief that they're in danger, and then it comes obviously at the price of not believing it.
Well, I think by the third act, it just gets to a point where it's all about spectacle.
Yeah.
Like the story kind of doesn't really matter as much anymore. It's just about enjoying what's physically going on in front of you.
Yeah.
All the crashes and the smashes and the
And
lights.
I'll have to say, because I'm not well read with comic book lore, but has Black Widow got a superpower, or is she just kind of, because she gets all fucked up throughout the film and she doesn't break anything?
It's one of them where obviously there's an amazing amount of like plot protection for these characters, because it's like in which one is it? It's one of the final two Avengers films, where I think it's the second one, where the whole Avengers facility gets like blown to bits, and like obviously Thor's going to survive. There's even a little section where they show how Ant-Man survives, because he gets blown through the window, but he shrinks himself as he falls. It's like, okay, so that's how he survived. And then like Hawkeye just kind of comes out some rubble, like, oh, I'm fine. But it's like, it's well established that Hawkeye definitely does not have any powers, and he just survived a building falling on him. But with Black Widow, especially in this universe, it's a bit of a weird one, because they do kind of show at the beginning the kind of the training they go through, and the fact that they kind of have throwaway lines like, well, only 1 in every 20 survive. So it's kind of like, I think the idea is that they are kind of enhanced slightly, and like they said about, again, there's another throwaway line where they're just like, oh, well, you were picked because you're like genetically superior or something like that. So I think, especially in the Marvel universe, I think there's a way of like categorizing people as like hard and not hard, and then that's why there's like some people who can survive the super soldier serum, that's why he says, I'm the only man who survived the super soldier serum, and that kind of thing, because they've tried to recreate and give it to loads of people, and loads of people just die, but other people like it takes on. So I think I would go along with the lines of, there's certain people who are just a bit like Unbreakable. There's certain people who are just harder than other people, and that's it. Obviously, it is kind of a bit like the whole subway crash, where the car gets flipped a million times and then thrown into, and then she's just like, oh, I've cut my arm. Stuff like that. It's just like, I think that's a mixture of, they need to survive, we need to have some action, but they are kind of super in a way. They're not Captain America level. I feel like there's kind of people, Hawkeye, Black Widow, then like Captain America, like, is how they've kind of done it, I would guess.
But I can't help but think that you're somewhat filling the blanks here.
But I feel like with not just Marvel stuff, but sci-fi stuff in general, you have to fill in some blanks somewhere, because if you start picking at it, like it's my favourite example is just Doctor Who. It's just like, you just don't ask questions and you'll enjoy it.
Nonsense.
Because if you start asking questions, it all falls apart.
Yeah.
Well, that's a sign of a bad fit story, then, isn't it? If you start asking questions, and this makes no sense.
But you can't. But they kind of. But I feel like they fill in the gaps with throwaway things. That's like the whole. Yeah. That's what I mean. I feel like it's if you look for them, you know what you're looking for. They're there. But if you don't, then you just kind of have to accept that. Wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey, it's all.
Is that a problem for you at all, or are we just kind of going along?
Oh, I just went along with it. I just figured it was part of the universe. Because if it's a place where, people can just take women from all around the world and train them into super soldiers and mind control them, and then mind control them with a bit of serum, it all kind of fits, I think, yeah.
Sure. So that's approaching the end of our spoiler-free section. I don't know if you want anything to add before we get into spoilers at all, or? No?
No.
Okay, so if you're interested in watching the film, obviously click off right now. We'll go into the spoiler section. We'll spoil the whole film for you. But overall, I think we all somewhat quite enjoyed it.
Yes.
some more than others. But yeah, okay, sports section, which usually is kind of, well, especially for this film, is when the problems start to arise for me. Especially with, it's not even spoilery, but some of the humour was just so misplaced. That scene in the plane where Florence Pugh is explaining to her dad that she had a, what was it, vasectomy?
No. She was like, chop, 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 chop.
Vasectomy.
No?
She had a hysterectomy.
A hysterectomy, oh.
Unless you know something we don't about Florence Pugh,
Oh, right,
I don't
okay.
think she can have a vasectomy.
Oh yeah, good point, yeah. It's 'cause, yeah.
Yeah, got your wires slightly crossed.
But it was just like played for laughs. I was just kind of like, tonally, this is weird because I know how to react to that scene. And yeah, just with usual Marvel films where they hesitate to fully commit to kind of tension and drama because they pull back with these kind of quips and one-liners. It's like, why can't you make your audience just feel something rather than just hoo hoo hoo?
Because they've established that that's what they're like now. They've established that like every Marvel film has got to have some sort of like light-hearted feel to it. Because I think with all the kind of death and destruction they want to do, they've still got to keep it family friendly. They've still got to keep it kind of.
You've made all the money. You've made all the money already. Just take a little bit of risk.
No, I feel like they can't go dark. I feel like if they're going to go dark, they'll probably do it in TV shows and stuff. They can kind of risk people because these are the types of films that like everyone's going to see. Whereas if it's like something you kind of, we just threw it on Disney Plus and the fans who liked it watched it, do you know what I mean? Like I think that's why it's such a struggle with Daredevil, because it's like everybody loved Daredevil and it was brutal, and everybody loves the Punisher and it was brutal, and now it's kind of like, are they going to bring it back? Are they not going to bring it back? What are they going to do? But, you know.
Did anyone see the big twist coming of who the helmeted villain was? Because I certainly did as soon as it's explained that Scarlett Johansson tried to kill big bad Ray Winston, but her daughter got blown up. I wonder who this person in this kind of faceless armour attacking her is.
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't even think about it.
Really?
I didn't even think it was a real person underneath. I thought it was a robot.
I was on the fence about because my only exposure to the villain Taskmaster is through like Deadpool comics and stuff, where they are but they're kind of a. From what I've read of them, I don't know if they have an identity in the comics. I've always, because of the way they're built, and I think there is a cartoon that they're in. I've always assumed that they were male, so I don't know if they've like. I'm assuming they've like completely changed the kind of story here, but I'm not 100% on that, to be fair.
So is that what they're called, the Taskmaster?
I'm pretty sure it's Taskmaster.
Because they never said that in the entire film. They never, apart from saying.
I'm like 90% sure it's Taskmaster.
I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying they just never mentioned it.
Taskmaster
just
sounds like a Q&A quiz on like British television.
It is. It's a show on TV.
My brain went somewhere else. So I was thinking more of a like.
Greg Davies.
So you go to a BDSM place.
I know what you mean. The threat was very. I don't know, because there were several. Well, there were kind of several different threats going on at once, but I'd never really felt the full weight of any.
I feel like they didn't get quite enough into how powerful a villain she could be, because the whole idea, I mean, obviously they touched on anything, but the whole idea of her powers is, at least in the comics as well, is she has a photographic memory that's so good. Anyone she fights, she just knows their fighting moves. So you know the scene where they like plug something into the back of their head and she's watching all the Avengers fights. So it's trying to establish that she can fight like any Avenger at any time she wants. And they kind of used it a couple of times, like they used the Captain America shield a couple of times, and they used the bow a couple of times, and then she got out the claws for like. And it was one of them where I was just like, I feel like you could do more than that. Like
Which of the Avengers is claws?
Black Panther. She throws out the claws.
That's a really good point, because when she actually does fight Black Widow at the end, I don't think she mirrors her. I know that she did at the start.
They keep getting blown through. I think they kind of solve the problem by not actually, because obviously in the fight it's the skydive, and they kind of have a skydiving fight where you can't really. Yeah, the whole skydiving fight was good, but it's one of them where that's a good way of kind of nullifying the power, because no one really has an idea of how to fight in the sky. Like, there's no kind of set of rules for that, and by the time you've kind of memorized the moves, you're going to hit the floor. So it's kind of one of them where it's how would they solve that problem, and I feel like they kind of went, well, we don't really know how to do this, so we're going to have them, when they're about to fight in the corridor, we're going to blow them apart, and then we're going to have them fight in the sky, because she would just get beat, because she's, Taskmaster can fight like any Avenger. And there's other properties that have done similar things, but they kind of go into a weird, like there's an Afro Samurai where there's another Afro Samurai that fights him, and they have to do like a whole, how does he beat this person kind of thing, whereas obviously I think they didn't have time to do it in this film. So they made, but she survives in the end of the film.
She dies, doesn't she?
No, she survives. They're on the floor, and she sprays her with the stuff, and then Scarlett Johansson, foster mum woman, is just like, get her in the plane, we'll take her with us.
Okay, that's really opened a big problem for me then, because I was just thinking, this basically, all these brain dead soldiers that are kind of like mind controlled, like against their will fighting. Well, there's this red serum that kind of alleviates this brainwashing, and they, come forth with who they are. So why didn't Ray Winston, when his daughter got blowed up, just like not make her into a super evil soldier? Because it seems through his big bad guy monologue that I had to enter a chip to my daughter's brain to make her kind of live, but she is kind of zombified because of that. But you have this serum that helps that. So why would this be a problem?
I feel like he probably saw it as an opportunity to like use this, because she's obviously like burnt and probably deformed in some way, yeah. And he's obviously kind of a women are objects kind of thing. So I feel like, and especially if it was his own daughter, I feel like he would see her more than anyone else as his property. So he would probably be like, well, I wouldn't trust this technology or whatever in anyone else, but also I don't want her to be able to, because he's obviously super paranoid. He lives in a castle in the sky, in a base where everyone is mind controlled. So I feel like it's like a paranoia thing with him, because that's how she baits him out in the kind of, which she's done before, which I quite liked. Because I think it's pretty much the first time you meet her, she's tied to a chair. I think it's one of the first Avengers, and she gets the guy talking about his plan, and then she goes, "You just revealed everything about the plan," and then she beats the crap out of him. She does exactly the same thing to Ray Winston, because obviously she kind of goes, "Oh, I'm powerless. You've got the smelling thing, and I can't hurt you." And then she baits him out to get all his information, and then she does him in or whatever, and then. But I feel like, because they're still in their brains, aren't they? So I'm sure his daughter was kind of just like saw all the horrific crap her dad was kind of making her do, and probably all the horrific crap that he's doing all to these other women. Yeah, so you don't want her to be able to fight back because of all that. Yeah.
I think the justification for that is like you need kind of more development between like the evil Russian dad and her kind of blowed up daughter, because when I was first watching it, it's like out of necessity I had to put kind of horrific chip in the back of her neck to make her operate, but obviously she's just kind of a zombified version of herself, where that kind of she gets alleviated by that at the end, and she's just fine, and she's got little burns on her face. She's not like completely disfigured. So it's kind of like
you don't see under the suit.
Oh, maybe she's a skeleton under the suit, just with a head on.
Because they can plug crap into the back of her neck, so it's like maybe it's like wired through her body or whatever like that. Because they didn't really. That's what I mean. They didn't really get into the extent of who Taskmaster was in this. That maybe they'll go into more. Because I feel like they wouldn't have her survive, and I feel like they wouldn't have all the Black Widows kind of leave. And I think the cutscene kind of sets her sister up to be the next Black Widow, in my opinion. I feel like that's what they're going to go with.
Yeah, I was thinking, no, go on.
No, I was just going to say that just because we were talking before about the action in the film, I thought it was one of the strongest points, and I wanted to say that. And I don't know if you guys agree, but I thought it was really impressive how, because it looked like Scarlett Johansson and Florence Pugh especially did a lot of their own stunts. Yeah. There's a scene where they're fighting in an apartment in Budapest, and there were a lot of close-ups showing their faces. So I think if they did actually do quite a lot of their own stunts and a lot of their own fight scenes, I think that's really impressive. I don't really think I've seen that.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. And as we were kind of praising Florence Pugh, like, as you say, the sting at the end kind of sets her up to be kind of the replacement of Black Widow in future franchises, and I think she'll do very well. I think she's got a very unique charisma about her, and yeah, if Marvel's setting up her as one of the key characters in this, what phase are we now? Fourth phase?
I'm going to shoot with 4, but I'm not going to say it with confidence.
They're going to be making these films until everyone in this room is dead anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, anything else you want to mention before ratings?
Any strengths or weaknesses you can think of at the moment?
I didn't see any weaknesses. Really? I just thoroughly enjoyed it.
Okay. Yeah.
What was the top moment for you?
It was definitely when they were falling down, fighting. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's visually really strong, and obviously it's kind of empty praise at this point, but like these big kind of Marvel films, like we're somewhat taken for granted that yes, they are somewhat conveyor beltish, they are kind of, just the big summer blockbusters everyone goes to every year, but there's incredible kind of skill and slickness to them, especially with the script. Like, as you said before, it just does constantly develop and keep moving. There's no flatness to it. It's ever developing, the plot is going forth. And they're all just very, very slickly produced. Like, you don't really get a Marvel film that is bad. You get somewhat are kind of mediocre, and then you get some that are very, very good. And you said before, does this slot in kind of like the middle range?
I'd say it's in the upper middle ranges. Like definitely, it's because it's one that I would be like, I wouldn't be opposed to watching again. There's certain Marvel films where I'm just kind of like, I don't know if I want to watch that one. Yeah. Whereas like this is one I'd be like, yeah, I'd watch that one. Like, yeah. Say again.
They feel a bit like placeholders, whereas this one didn't. I do think, because with Marvel films, with any superhero film, I don't necessarily think I'm going to get a particularly strong, not message, but you're not going to get a lot of sort of really deep kind of chat or character development. They kind of do only go so far, but I think Black Widow was quite good at putting forward kind of a message of female empowerment, as good as a superhero film can. I think the kind of idea of freeing, this kind of recurrent mission of like freeing these other women who've been trained and have just been brainwashed into being trained killers. It was really, it was good. It was a strong kind of theme of, I guess, female empowerment. I thought it was nicely done.
It was nice that Scarlett Johansson was the person saving them as well. It was like another woman rather than it being like, it's like big Captain America coming in and saving all the women. No, let's have another woman do it. It's nice.
And again, it wasn't anything, like, I don't want to like Schindler's List level. It was all like Marvel level, but
imagine if it was, everyone just goes to see Schindler's List film like, huh?
just Liam Neeson in there, just saving women. I thought it was well done for what it was. It didn't verge on, it didn't become cheesy, and it also wasn't so on the nose where it's like, this is about female empowerment. Preachy is a good word.
I would definitely agree. I feel like it wasn't kind of in your face with the fact that it was like a for females film, because obviously they still had like, the dad, who is just like obviously this big, like the manliest man, like because again like the bit where he's trying to make her, like that's why she's trying to make him uncomfortable in the plane, because obviously he doesn't want to hear about hysterectomy, he doesn't want to hear about any of that because he's just a big British man or whatever, and he's kind of the joke. But like I like the fact that he kind of stops being that, and he has his little bit in the prison where he's just like, I'm sorry for what I did, because I think after the moment in the house where he kind of realizes what he actually had and where he is now and how it is slightly, I feel like they didn't expand on it too much, but it was good that he kind of had a little character development, but he was the joke kind of thing. But and I feel like it was good that they had, like you said, like the strong mum, the strong sisters, and obviously now they've got an army of super strong women and Black Widows and stuff, which would be interesting to see what they do with that as well.
I agree, and they are actually strong. They don't just stand around saying how strong they are, and other people don't just stand around saying, oh, you're very strong. Yes, I agree. Those are, it's shown through the action and through the storyline, and I thought that was great, because there's nothing kind of more annoying, at least to me, than watching a film where it's supposed to be about strong female characters and it's just done so wrong.
Or it's just too overly forced, where there's not enough, it's not soul to it. It's almost kind of like the film saying, hey, we
ticking boxes.
Like ticking boxes, exactly, where here it was very more kind of naturalistic and a lot just well done. So shall we go through ratings? Shall we start with Sam and then go through me? Out of 10, kind of 0.5s as well, 0.25s, 0.75s.
I'd probably say overall like a 7, but in terms of like the Marvel placement, I'd probably say it's like close to an 8, probably 7.5, 8, kind of in that way. But yeah, I thought it was very, very standard. But I enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed it. Definitely watch it again. So yeah.
I'd go a strong 8. Yeah, easy. Slots right in there.
I'd probably say like a 7, 7.5. There were things, there were some issues with it. I agree, some of the humour wasn't great. I think probably less quippy than other Marvel films.
It was,
definitely. To its benefit. But, I thought it was very strong.
Yeah, around about the same thing. I'd probably say a 6.5 to a 7. I think if you are a Marvel fan, if you've enjoyed all these films, I can't visualise someone going in, big Marvel fan, and being disappointed by it. I just reckon they will just have a good time. But if you have no interest in Marvel, no interest in superhero films, this is not the film to convert you either. I think I think it's just a very like slickly produced, fun film for fans of the franchise. Nothing more, nothing less. And you know, for a Friday night kind of blockbuster film, that's, you know, what you want, really.
Definitely.
Yeah.
If you want action.
If you want, you know, a rumble. Yeah.
Yeah, you could say that.
Yes. So thank you everybody for watching. We'll do more regular reviews in this beautiful cinema. That once again we're thankful, very thankful for Printworks and View to allow access for us to review. And yeah, as you guys probably agree, it's just lovely to be back in a cinema. Like I got kind of sick last year just watching streaming films and TVs. To be in a cinema with an audience was just a very welcome experience that I haven't had in a long time. I'm sure you guys haven't either.
It's probably our first time back in a cinema since it's all reopened, and it was a good experience. Yeah, definitely.
Nice to have the big boy screen as well. Like the quality and the sound, like it's great.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. So yeah, thanks for watching this review. We'll be reviewing things here more regularly and more often. This is Ben Simpson signing off from Vibe.